run for Congress and why you should consider supporting me. So who am I? I'm a guy who grew up in a middle-class family in a town of 4,000 people. My dad sold insurance. My mom stayed at home and raised 6 kids. My dad had a one-room office in the library in town above the main floor. It wasn't as nice as this library, I can tell you that. And my mom typed the letters at the desk, and the dog was under the desk, and I used to stop in every day after school. Middle class. It's where I come from. It's what I care about. They raised 6 kids on one income. They sent us all to school. They did it by hard work and by getting a fair shot. And they sent us to college. I went to Georgetown, School of Foreign Service. I went to the University of Virginia, got a degree in international relations. I spent a year of my life working with Jesuit volunteers in some of the worst parts of Latin America and Peru. I came back. I went to law school at the University of Virginia. I managed a Journal of International Law. When I got out of law school, I worked on the Clinton campaign. I slept on a floor in Little Rock, Arkansas for 6 months. When I came back, and I'd like to think sleeping on the floor had something to do with winning that race, but I was just a kid, but it was one of the best experiences I've ever had. And when I got back, I took the bar, started practicing law in New York. I did a lot of pro bono work in my legal practice. I represented tenants who were getting a bad deal by their slumlords. I represented a union activist from Honduras who was threatened with death by the Honduran military, got a political asylum in the U.S. I represented the family of hate crime victim Matthew Shepard, again fighting for people who needed help. I had an opportunity to work in the White House in 1997. I worked there for the entire second term. I was the President's staff secretary. I was a member of the President's senior staff. I had a national security clearance equal to the President's. They call it a code word, top secret national security clearance. It was my job to read everything that the President was reading every day and to figure out what he needed to see, what he didn't, what he needed to do, what he didn't need to do, and to write him memos and tell him what everything was. So sort of a glorified paper pusher in a way, but it was an extraordinary experience. And it gave me a very good insight into what works and what doesn't in Washington. When I came back, I ran a business for 3 years. We had a software company, created a lot of jobs, high, good wage, good benefit jobs. We sold that company. I ran for Attorney General of New York. Some of you may remember in 2006, I had the bright idea to run against Andrew Cuomo and Mark Green. And I learned a lot. And I was in this part of the state, and I was in, I'll share a little secret with you. I didn't win. But I learned a lot, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about New York. I learned a lot about people's problems. When you go to all 62 counties in New York, when you are in little towns up near the Canadian border at 11 o'clock at night at a community forum, or you're out in Jamestown, or you're up in Elmira, or you're here in Putnam County, you know, it's amazing how similar people's problems are, right? Particularly middle-class people. And that's what I took away from that campaign. And at the end of it, Eliot Spitzer offered me a job in the governor's office. So I was the first deputy secretary to the governor. That's the #2 person in the governor's office. And, you know, Eliot Spitzer made a couple of well-publicized mistakes. I'm sure you heard about those. But I was in the fight up there. And I'm not ashamed of that. And we had to deal with the Republicans up there every day, tooth and nail. And I'm proud that I was in the fight for Democrats and for democratic values in Albany. And when Eliot resigned, I stayed over and worked for David Patterson for 6 months after that. So I have a very good grounding in how Albany works, and I understand state issues. And when that campaign, when that opportunity wound down and I came back into private practice, I started thinking about how I could get back involved. And so I just want to tell you, if that covers who I am and what gives me the right to run for Congress, let me just say one word on why you should support me. I think there's really 2 reasons. One, I think I have the best qualifications for this race. I don't think there's another person running in this race in the Democratic primary who can combine the federal experience, the state experience, and who understands New York City, who understands the powers that be there, who's got a relationship with the people there, who can access the resources there that we're going to need to beat Nan Hayward. In addition to the experience, I think I really do have the best chance to beat her. I think I can put together the organizational and the fundraising capacity necessary to win this race. So I hope you'll keep an open mind. We're just getting started. We've got 3 months to have this conversation all over the 18th District. And when that conversation is over, I hope you'll see that I'm the best person to beat Nan Hayward and the best person to represent you, to carry your voice and concerns in Washington. Thank you very much.